Go back.
And your host, Brandon Kravitz, here, joined by my co-host and producer. He is Sweet Tea, Tyler Karen. We are also streaming live via video on my Twitter account, at Brandon Kravitz. You can go and check that out. Hit us up on the Mills Air text line, 50857. Also on that iHeartRadio talkback, just tap that microphone icon and fire away. You've got 30 seconds to leave your hottest takes, and we'll air those in the 5 o'clock hour. Your shot at a prize today. We've got Orlando City soccer tickets for their match coming up on May 14th. That is during tea time, presented by Wonder Fan, deep into the 4 o'clock hour. I'm not thrilled with, kids can be honest. My son brought home this big binder of like all the stuff that he had learned. He's 5, so he's in pre-K. The school year is ending, about to go into kindergarten. They put a big binder together. It's all these pictures, stick figures that he's drawn, and words that he can spell now and stuff like that. You know, it makes you very proud as a parent. And then there's this big figure on one of the pages, Tyler, that I said, "Is that a turtle?" And he said, "No, that's Daddy." And I said, "Oh, what's this thing?" And he goes, "That's your big belly."
Oh, yeah.
I was like, all right. So that's part one. Now, part two is the Jim Colbert Show shared an Instagram reel of one of my...
Big bellies?
No.
Okay.
But this does relate. Of one of my theories of how Shedeur Sanders got drafted. I put a political lean on it, thought they would get a kick out of it. They made it into an Instagram post, and now everybody is angry, because people don't like politics. But even though my stance wasn't political, I just said that there's a chance that Donald Trump got Shedeur Sanders drafted.
It's a very clear connection. You were just kind of connecting dots that were very close to one another.
It was bipartisan. It was just an observation. It wasn't a political take. But that's not even the point. The first comment on the post is, "Damn, I haven't seen Kravitz in a while. What are you guys feeding him?"
Oh.
So this is now within an hour of each other. I'm getting drawn like a big turtle, and someone who listens to Real Radio thinks that I have been eating a ton of food, which is not totally inaccurate, because last night I housed Taco Bell after the last Magic game of the season. I roll through McDonald's. That's my go-to stop. It's the $5 meal deal. I do it once a week during the NBA season as my little treat at the end of the night. Spotlight in the kitchen, and I house that thing like a drug addict. And I rolled through McDonald's, and they said that they were closed temporarily because they were getting their roof cleaned. And I'm like, I don't care. I want a double cheeseburger, but they shut off the intercom. So I had to go to the closest fast food restaurant, and which was Taco Bell. Taco Bell, not as cheap as it used to be, by the way. But anyway, that's my story. So the moral of this, though, to round it back home, is that I agree with both my son and this random Real Radio listener that I need to drop some LBs. So I want you guys to text in your diet advice. I would like just some sort of path. I need to get back on track. This isn't some major overhaul. You don't have to roll me out of the studio, but I think I could use some direction. So if you guys have any cheat codes out there, I'll take it. 50857.
Well, let me say this, BK, and I think that this is a compliment, that you look the exact same as the day I met you. So you are 39 looking 36.
You see me
40 looking 37. How old are you, 39 or 40?
I'm 39,
okay.
But you see me every day, so it doesn't count. Doesn't count.
There are different stages in life that you just might put on a couple of pounds. Like there is the freshman 15. When you hit college, you're away from mama's nest and the home the home cooking that might have nutritional value, and you get to college and it's, oh, that's food that goes in my mouth. There's no thought to it when you're 18, 19 years old. There's the Magic 15, where when you are working in broadcasting, there's a reason that we talk about food the second the broadcast is over. It's because as fun as it is to do the work that we do, as every job is, it's draining in its own ways. When you're done with a full day of broadcasting, there are days that you are talking from 8 a.m. until after midnight, like last night with your podcast, the show, the broadcast, everything that you do. The very first thing that you want to do once you're off air is stuff your face. And that goes for all of us.
I literally can't wait. Nothing makes me more hungry than being on the radio. So I have to find a way around this. It does help that we don't have any more broadcasts. So that's the sweet portion of the bitterness of what last night was. The Magic lose in 5. And as much as it felt like, well, the Magic were hanging tough and they went toe-to-toe with the Celtics, there is a lot to be proud of. You can be proud of the way the team battled. I also don't want to be completely unrealistic to exactly what happened now that we can take a wide view of the end of the series. The average margin of loss for the Magic was 16.5 points. So let's not get too excited about losing in 5 games. And this is why I said at the beginning of the series, in order to feel like you are validated in your belief of this basketball team, they had to win 2 games. That was the difference. 1 extra win makes you feel like, okay, we lost to the champs. You get gentlemen swept with an average margin of loss of 16.5. And even though it felt in the moment like the Magic were battling with this team, they kind of got dusted, if we're being honest with ourselves. And that is, so I find myself disappointed. Now, does that change the offseason? No. We said that at the beginning. Didn't matter if they won 1 game or 2 games, or if they took the Celtics to 7, or even if something weird happened and they won the series, the offseason should always look the same. But I stand by what I said at the beginning of the series. There are things to be proud of with the Magic, but I find myself disappointed at the end of 5 games.
I don't know if I'd say disappointed, because we've said it throughout the series. Dante and Jake just said it to wrap up Magic Insider. Shout out to those two for the work that they put into that throughout the year. Today was the final Magic Insider. So we get more airtime. That's right. What that means heading forward.
Starting tomorrow, we're back on live at 3 p.m. Now I'm off tomorrow, but starting Friday, we're still going to be live. Tyler's got you covered with the hosting duties, but yes, more airtime for us. This is exactly what we need.
But Dante and Jake spoke about, and I agree to this sentiment, that this series made the country, the NBA community, I think higher of the Orlando Magic and think lower of the Boston Celtics. I don't know if there's another team in the East that is going to be able to do that. And there aren't any moral victories in this, but it all factors into, okay, what was the expectation for this series, and did the Magic live up to this expectation? And not the in-house expectations. You'll hear from Paolo Banchero later saying there are no moral victories. The goal is to get to the second round and beyond, and we didn't reach that goal. You should be overly ambitious if you are wearing a jersey or coaching on the sidelines for that team. We take more of the national view of what are the real expectations, and the expectation was the Magic were always going to lose to the defending champs in the Boston Celtics, one of the favorites to win the finals. But what Orlando was able to do defensively against this Celtics team for there were 20 quarters played in this series. For 16 of those 20 quarters, again, no moral victories, but it was competitive as heck. And it just happened to fall that those 4 bad quarters came in 4 different games, and those were the losses for the Orlando Magic.
It feels to me like it was one slight level above bare minimum. You won a game. That was the expectation of at least don't get swept. They did that. Battle, make it tough on Boston. That was one of the things we asked for at the beginning of the series. Make Boston regret the fact that they got you in the first round. I think they accomplished that, and that's it.
Well, how many games did the Magic lead at halftime? 3? Is it 3 of the 5 that the Magic had a lead?
It was at least within a couple of points pretty much every game at halftime.
I know it was guaranteed that the Magic led by in at least 2 games of the series, one of them being last night And then I know at least one of those at home. There may have been another on there. But yeah, they were all competitive. So it is a full 48 minutes of basketball game. It's been struggled. The third quarter struggles continued. It bled into the postseason. That's been an issue for the Magic all season long. And so you need to you hope to correct those changes and do it on the fly throughout the season and into a playoff series. But from the wide view, when you look at the work that this Magic team was able to do and how you were able to dismantle and affect one of the best offensive teams in the league in the Boston Celtics, I think that there are glowing, promising signs from this series that you can take away. All in all, not a disappointment in my book, from this Orlando Magic team.
Ironically enough, the game where the Magic trailed by 10 at half was the one that they won, game 3, that first one at home. So I'm just going to use this as a primer. We are going to get way heavier into this later on in the show. So if you are watching along on Twitter, make sure that you fire up that iHeartRadio app or tune in on FM 96.9 or AM 740. Now, Magic fans, level with me. You can complain now. Now is the time. Open up the floodgates. Now is the time to look ahead at what is to come in the offseason. Not in the middle of a playoff series that you wait all year for. Now is that moment. It is April 30th, and this is the point that I was making from the beginning when I went on the tirade last week when after one loss, the first loss in the series, Magic fans were already planning for the offseason. It is April 30th right now. The season is officially over. Exit interviews are tomorrow, and guess what? There is plenty of time to have the conversation that you've been trying to have for the last couple of weeks. The next regular season game for the Magic isn't until mid-October of this year. That's 6 months away. We've got plenty of time. You hate the roster. You hate the roster construction. Now is the time to let it fly, and you've got several months to do so. Free agency is in July. The draft is in June. So I did a little breakdown, and thanks in part to our partner in Mike Giannetti of SpotTrack.com, as well as Bobby Marks of ESPN, who have collectively, because this is what they do for a living, laid out exactly where the Magic are financially, what they can do moving forward, and what they need. I don't think it took a rocket scientist to figure this out. Offense, and more offense. Orlando has now had a bottom 10 offense for an unfathomable 13 consecutive seasons, including all 8 that have been spent under the current president of basketball operations in Jeff Weltman. So hard stop right there. They are way too reliant on Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Over 60% of the team's scoring came from those 2 players in the playoffs. This is not LeBron and Wade with the Miami Heat. You have to get these guys help. A scoring guard feels like step number 1. The issue is who? You want to add an elite player. I just don't know how many elite guards are out there that can be had that also aren't I saw this word used, and I think it's so perfect, but I want to make sure I say that because this is not a word that I would use, is heliocentric. Bringing in a guard, it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. It's just not the best idea. Bringing in a guard who the offense has to run through, i.e. Trae Young. If you bring in a Trae Young type of player, it becomes Trae Young basketball, and he is the sun, and everyone else on the team are the planets. Maybe it can work, but I think you need somebody that can blend into the background when it's Paolo and Franz time. The Magic need to find their own version of what the Celtics have in Drew Holiday or Derek White, and then also find 3 other shooters, and then you can have an NBA level offense. According to Bobby Marks from ESPN, who has been on top of it with these postseason reviews, if you haven't been checking out his videos, I highly recommend you do that. Here are the bullets of where the Magic are. 9 of the 15 players on the roster were drafted by the Magic. That is the highest number in the NBA. They value continuity, and what will be fascinating is how they continue to live by their values, because it's not like Jeff Weltman and Anthony Parker are going to change the way that they think, but at the same time, they have to pivot because you can't roll back with the exact same roster. They're projected to be a second apron team. The Magic next offseason, or this offseason, are projected to be in the second apron. That's the highest luxury tax that you can be at. They are simply not good enough to enter that level of tax. So really, the Magic should be financially in cost-cutting mode, but fans want them to be in step your foot on the gas, get a high-priced player, get a couple of free agents, trade for a superstar. The Magic are not financially there, and Paolo's contract, they haven't even extended him yet, and then that will kick in on the books. So if you are able to avoid the second apron now, by the next offseason, you're definitely going to be there between Paolo, Franz, and Jalen Suggs and the other players that have been locked up. The Magic do have wiggle room with their picks, though. They have 6 first-round picks, swap rights, 13 second-round picks. A great spot for the Magic to be from a draft standpoint. Year one of Franz and Paolo, that kicks in next year. Paolo will be signed to an extension in July. That'll kick in the following season, and the Magic still need to make decisions on Mo Wagner, Jonathan Isaac, Gary Harris, and Caleb Houston. That is the primer. We're going to get to our thoughts on that whole layout a little bit later on in the show. Up next, Raheem Palmer and his best bets for tonight's game, the 2-game slate that we have in the NBA. A couple of game 5s, must-win situations for the Rockets and for the LA Lakers. Also, I placed a futures bet in the NBA. I want to get his thoughts on that. But first, our final Magic Minute of the season.
With today's Magic Minute, I'm Jake Chapman. The 36